Alright, in the last video I told you guys to go ahead and start working on the enemies once you got the ship working. And now I'm going to show you what I told you guys to do in class. For the next step, I mentioned just drag one of your prefabs here, spaceship, the enemy ship, up here into your hierarchy, and then reposition it like I did and resize it so that it matches the size of the ship, and get it positioned somewhere up here where you want it. And then you're going to need to make an enemy script. So if I go to my scripts here, you're going to see I created a new enemy ship script, called EnemyController, much like the player controller. And the first two things I want it to do is, number one, get it to start moving, either starting left or right. And then number two, when it hits the edge boundary, to reverse direction. So before we get it to start marching down the screen, just get it to move back and forth, and I'll show you. Run mine, and then you'll see it gets to the edge, boop, and I could have actually increased that number and maybe make it get a little bit closer, but that's good. It looks good. And also make sure that when you shoot it, it disappears, so that that's still working. So again, I'm just going to click on enemy ship and show you. Well, I scaled mine to 0.4. You can scale yours to make it look appropriate for your game. And I added a detect collision. That's where the bullet hits it, destroys it. And I added an enemy controller script, and that's the one that I was just talking about. Now, two things you want to do with the enemy controller, like I said, get it to initially start moving. Let's see, I wasn't going to show you this, but I'm going to go ahead and show you. Okay, enemy controller. So I just created a new script, and I copied from the move forward script. See, well, here's the script that's making it move, the bullet move in the up direction. So I simply copy this, went to the enemy scroller, and in the update I pasted it right here. But I changed something. Instead of up, I had it move to the left. You could have it start moving to the right or the left, because if we look at the orientation, if the bullet's moving up on the screen, and that's this direction, then wanting this to move this way or this way would be right or left. Alright, so that gets it initially moving. Now, I'm not going to show you the next code. If I scroll down here, I've got some code that tells it to reverse direction when it hits the edge of the screen. But I'll give you a hint. If I go to my player controller code, this if statement, oops, right here, and this if statement. This one's saying if it's less than negative x range, like -4 in this case. This is my player controller, so when I push the button it goes over here, and if it's less than -4, it stops, because it does this. It says, okay, then reposition it at the -x. So don't let it go past that. Every time you get past it, you can see it glitches a little, kind of moves back and just sits. So it just sits up against the left as you're holding down the left arrow. And then this one is greater than, when it hits the edge, this script is telling it to reposition it right there, so it doesn't show it off the screen. It keeps repositioning it right there. Now, when the enemy ship is moving, we don't want this code. We just want this if to decide if it's off the edge on the negative side or the positive side. But we want to put script in here that says reverse direction. And Mr. Holthouse wrote this up on the board, what to do. And it's basically reversing the speed. It's taking the speed and multiplying it by a -1. Because let's say it's moving in a negative. It hits, let's say it's moving at -2 speed, okay, so -2, it hits. Now if we multiply it by a -1, now it's +2, so it moves at +2. Then the next if is going to say, okay, when it's greater than this edge, then if you do speed equals, or star equals -1, it multiplies it by a -1, and now it moves it back in this direction. So all you need here, replace this guy and this guy with speed now equals, so speed equals speed equals star equals, because that means multiplied by -1. So in my enemy controller, I'll just show you the first one. I copied if the position, and then I put speed star equal -1. Alright, that's that for this one, just to get the enemy working. And then we're going to look at how do we get the enemies to spawn as a group.